Carolina,
Hello.
howdy.
How are you?
You made it. That's always a good sign. On
Yes, I
occasion, we
did.
have some. Well, on occasion, we have some problems with that around here. So the fact that you're actually here and on time and like the internet seems to be working is a win.
Yes, it is. Win-win for all.
And look, you even have a melanger running behind you. You got a stone melange, like proving that you're a bean to bar chocolate manufacturer.
Correct. Yes.
Though you used something other than bean to bar the other day when we talked. Bean to, I forget how you described
Bean to
yourself.
so yeah. So bean to bond. We go a little bit further. So we do make bars, but our the biggest thing that we produce in terms of volume are actually bonbons. So we produce all our own couverture. So we kind of jokingly say that we're bean to bond as a term.
Cool. How? So you're in Miami, right?
Yes, steamy Miami.
Because that's obviously where everybody wants to make chocolate, right?
Of course, totally natural.
And I think I was reading that you're in the Little Havana section of Miami.
Yeah, we're in Little Havana, which is historically, you know, we're a big part of the Cuban diaspora, came over many decades ago. So there's a lot of culture here. It's a lot of great Latino businesses, a lot of history, a lot of culture. So it's a great spot to be in.
Yeah, I think my last trip to Miami, we spent a bunch of time at the Ball and Chain on Calle Ocho.
Yes. Yep, that is a requisite place to stop by when you're in Miami.
Well, we could take at that by time we could take our 8-year-old to see music. We could justify it that it was
Right,
like
right.
it's a restaurant. It's not a
Of
bar.
course.
We'll order
Yeah.
nachos.
Yeah, totally.
And then we went to some other restaurant that's the other prerequisite that's kind of farther up Calle Ocho too that I don't remember the name of.
There's El Pub. There's a few different places, and right next to Ball and Chain is Azúcar Ice Cream, which is they're very famous. We actually sell chocolate to them. They make other ice creams with chocolate with our chocolate in it. So
I was actually going to ask you about the ice cream place because that was like our other big thing was
yep.
I think we were in Miami like 5 days and we were in Little Havana 3 of them.
Yeah, and I'm sure you ate a lot because that's a big thing in Miami. There's so much, different variety of and diversity of cultures. You can eat so many different things here, which is really cool.
Yeah, my wife is my wife's father is originally from Panama. And so
Okay.
anywhere that we could get like plantains done in like 6 different ways over the course of 3 days,
Yep.
that was what we had to do.
Yeah, we actually make a plantain bar. We do a bark with platanitos, so it's green plantains and milk chocolate to give it like a contrast of like sweet. It's a very Latin play on chocolate treat.
So we clearly ordered the wrong bars because that would be the bar that I should be taking home for her.
That's
but
those we do a few like signature Miami things. So like the plantain one is a big one. Then we have a café con leche, which is inspired by like the Cuban coffee that you order here. Which is like a rocket ship of energy for you, but we do our homage to the café con leche that runs Miami.
yeah, I don't know. We ordered Taste of the Town.
Okay, very nice. And then Aruacos, yeah.
So and we'll talk about this later. How about that?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
because we really want to talk about. My assistant Beth really wants to understand what the roasted milk is. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Cool.
But the packaging is just awesome. I like the.
Thank you. Yeah, we it takes us such a long time to make the chocolates that we treat it like a little piece of art. So for us, every little bar that goes out should be like a gift to yourself. And we can talk a little about the packaging, but we actually, all the packaging is representative of something of the farm. So we like to pay homage to what the farmers do and their ecosystems over there with what we put on the packaging.
Cool. So let's go back a little bit. I think you were telling me yesterday that you guys opened in 2014.
Yep.
So you're happy 6 years. Happy 6 years.
To business?
Yeah. So you're 6 years
Yeah,
old.
we've been officially in this space. We just turned 2, and been doing chocolate for about 6, but officially over the last 3 years, really on a formal scale.
Cool. But you're not a foodie originally.
I am not. I'm not. I'm actually a corporate dropout. So I'm actually an organizational psychologist by training. and I worked as a management consultant in financial services for 10 plus years. And then the natural progression was chocolate. So, I fell in love with it, and it was just something I was very passionate about, and I had an idea to pursue and to produce chocolate, and kind of left that behind and started this up.
Yeah. So for those people that that tune into this on a regular basis, they know that a lot of times there are people that I don't know at all, and I get a bio and a picture, and that's about it. And
Uh-huh.
your bio talks about, and we've never met before until yesterday. We talked briefly on the phone, but
Yeah.
you and I have never. Your bio mentions that you made a trip to Paris in like
Correct.
2000, in 2010, 2011, something like that, right?
Sometime around there, yeah.
And I mean, you'd had chocolate before then, though. I
I've
mean,
had
you
chocolate before, of course. I mean, but not in the way I had experienced that time. And I took a trip. I actually was not supposed to be there. I was visiting clients for my prior career, and I decided I was traveling nonstop for about 3 months, and I decided to venture out for that weekend to go to Paris in between different legs of visiting clients. And I went into this little farmer's market, your typical produce, fresh products, and I had this great hot chocolate. It was just made with amazing real chocolate, and I, was immediately transported to just simpler times where chocolate was chocolate. I'm Colombian, so we drink a lot of hot chocolate, and it's like the real pure cacao stuff. So that's what it was very reminiscent for me, and I fell in love with the notion of making a good product just with simple, great, natural ingredients, and how amazing that could be. And I really fell in love, and that really spoke to me. And I spent about 2 years tinkering in my apartment, my little studio apartment after work, testing out different recipes, making a lot of horrible chocolate in the attempt to recreate that recipe until I finally got it down and, felt confident enough that I wanted to push out this product.
did you grow up in Colombia or did you grow up in the States?
I actually I'm from nowhere. I actually was born here in Miami, and I grew up in Colombia until I was about 13. And then I moved back to the States, and I lived in California and Arizona, New York, and Florida as well. So I'm a little bit from everywhere.
Kind of like chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. Different terroirs.
Well, yeah. Colombia has a pretty good chocolate history too. I mean,
It does. When
it's
I
getting
actually
better.
started
How's that?
the business, my original idea was I wanted to only source Colombian cacaos because there's so much diversity. But I ran into a lot of issues with being able to bring it to the States, and it wasn't something I was able to come to fruition. But what was nice in the last year, now we've started to bring different Colombian origins, has been really nice. So it's been a long process, but yes, there's a great history. But in terms of like great produced cacao, it's now in the last few years that there's a lot of producers paying attention and paying mind to quality.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent some time in Colombia, in particular in Bogota, with Casa
Okay.
Lucre, right? And
Uh-huh.
Casa Lucre, I think, has done a lot of that. Like they've really helped to sort of get better cacao being grown in Colombia, and not just trying to use it all internally. And I think export does a lot for that, right? I mean, they've contributed to the export movement of Colombian cacao, which it wasn't really exported until the last 10 years, let's say.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So
And
I actually got to go last year and visit a lot of the farms that now we're working with. So I'm super excited that as of next week, we'll now have 4 different origins from Colombia. So that's very exciting.
yeah, I mean, that was something that I sort of really learned in Colombia too. I actually learned to make chocolate with Colombian beans.
Uh-huh.
Like I'd never made chocolate before, and then made Colombian beans. But there are really 4 or 5 real distinct kind of flavor profiles coming out of Colombia, which is pretty unique in a lot of
Right.
ways. I mean,
Yeah. The thing is,
Venezuela has some of that as well.
yeah, there's so many microclimates within the country, so it really lends itself to a huge diversity of flavors and properties that is really cool and unique.
Right, and I find Colombia interesting geographically that you can export to either the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean. That's
Right.
my fun
A little
geographical
best
fact about
of
Colombia.
both worlds. Yeah.
Right, kind of like Panama,
Hmm.
where I saw the Pacific and the Atlantic all on the same day, which was crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So, so you're in your apartment
Yeah.
in New York with a little melange, and you're buying beans on the internet, I assume.
So prior to that, I was just working initially. When I first came back from that trip, I was just buying different chocolates and eating my way through every chocolate brand I could to kind of get a sense of what everything was being offered and tinkering around with it, and trying different beans and everything, and really formalizing, I guess, my education in my studio apartment as to what chocolate was and what chocolate could be.
What was your favorite chocolate from that time?
Oh, my favorite chocolate from that time. Oh boy, I really like a guitar. Like some of the guitar, brand chocolates, in terms of a brand and in terms of like an origin. Dominican Republic was one that I really enjoyed as far as origin place.
So are you like scooping the internet for information? Are you like taking classes places? Like, are you going to Brooklyn to
Yeah, it was
spend
a
time with the
mix
Valrhona
of.
guys?
It was a mix because I originally was still working, very, very long hours in my corporate job. And when I come back home from work initially, I'd spend time afterwards and also on the weekends just scouring the internet, trying to absorb all knowledge that I could on all things chocolate, just reading as much as I could from the scholarly side, but also from plenty of YouTube videos. So a formal education on chocolate on YouTube, which is always incredible, but a fountain of knowledge.
You just have to be careful. Like I'm learning from YouTube, like on home repair stuff. There's some good YouTube videos, and there's some not so good YouTube videos.
There's some things you should not learn on YouTube for repairs.
I mean, and I think but that's true of everything. I mean, I think there's some really great information out there about chocolate that's sort of public knowledge, and then there's some stuff that's not as great, right? And it's kind of picking your spots, I guess, right?
Absolutely. And just getting hands-on with it, I think for me it was just getting down to working with chocolate and seeing, how you could work with it, how difficult it was to work with it at times, and just trying to learn more hands-on in addition to that knowledge as to, what makes chocolate great and how to work in a way that really brings that out.
Right. But, okay, so at some point you decide I'm all in.
Yep. So initially, when I first started with it, again, I had the first thing I made was a hot chocolate. It was a hot chocolate recipe that I wanted to produce. And my initial thought process was, well, I actually want to find a co-packer, somebody to produce this for me, and I would just distribute since I had no working knowledge of food or food production. I came from the business side, but food was one of those things I had never really touched upon. And in my journey to do that, I ended up contacting and trying to explore the idea of a co-packer. And the thing I kept running into was the chocolate quality of what they were using was quite subpar. So it was either very waxy or very, palm oil, all the sorts of cheap chocolates, unfortunately, that are out there. And I kept running into the barrier that I just couldn't find somebody to produce at a quality I wanted to. And that's when I realized the only option for me would be to, go into manufacturing on my own. So then started that whole journey of, really understanding better manufacturing. And I started small with just very small equipment, and so began my journey into chocolate making.
Why not? I mean,
Why not?
but I mean, that's a big leap, right? I mean, there are a lot of people that do one or the other, right? There are a lot of people that either learn to start okay, I'm going to make chocolate, and I'm going to get really good at making chocolate, or hey, I want to make finished goods. So whether that's I want to make hot chocolate, or I want to make pralines, or I want to make whatever it is, bonbons, whatever. But that whole decision, I'm going to do both at the same time with no real background, is it's a lot for me, and I feel like I know both of those things pretty well.
Yeah, it is. It's not. It's a huge undertaking, that's for sure. And I think on the journey to eventually make good chocolate, there was a huge journey of making not so great chocolate and just trial and error of seeing, how to make things better. And, every batch was like an opportunity to just keep on improving and keep on getting to the place where I wanted and needed to be at.
I mean, who was looking at this? Your neighbors, the guys at the office, like
A
they all had
lot of
like wait.
friends and family taste testing everything, and in true analytical form, there were Excel spreadsheets that went along with every sample batch, so people could fill out all their their Likert scale of where things stood and what needed to be worked on. So it was just a lot of guinea pigging on friends and family.
Which I guess for a while is good until they're tired of Carolina, please don't bring us more chocolate this week.
I haven't yet experienced that. It's usually, why have you not brought me, or why have you not sent me this new bar that you're making or this new thing that you're making? So far, I'm good on my resources, at least.
Cool. So I just unwrapped the bar.
Okay. What do you have, the toast of the town?
No, the Colombian, the organic.
Oh, the Arahuacos. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks. I wasn't going to butcher that because my Spanish is really bad. I wasn't going to try.
That's all right.
It was going to go poorly. So you're in New York. You've decided we're going all in.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Miami at some point was home, but you said nowhere was home. But so why Miami and not New York or San Diego or wherever?
Sure. So I mean, for me, in terms of everywhere I've lived, Miami and New York have always felt like home, just for different reasons. I was in New York at the time when I decided to do the business, but we all know New York is a very expensive place to have a startup, especially in the city. So it was one of those things that came down to, I was self-funded, so I knew I could come down to Miami, and it might be a little bit easier to start up when you're undertaking something like this. And it was just, Miami is this growing, foodie city. There's still a lot to kind of develop, and I knew there was an opportunity where we could do something new and different, and there would be a growing audience that would kind of grow with us as well.
But you were the first bean-to-bar manufacturer in Miami. Is that right?
We we're not the first, but yeah, there's another bean-to-bar manufacturer here in Miami, and then we're like the first chocolate factory. We're at the scale that we're at.
Got it. So we moved back to Miami, and you said you're now in your second location. So you started somewhere smaller,
correct?
Presumably.
Yep.
How small? 1,000 square feet? 1,200 square feet?
Reach with my arms extended to the washer down to the tempering machine. It was quite small. Just a little commercial space. It was actually a former storage locker that was converted into an office, and so I converted into a little commercial kitchen, and it was just tiny. Not the most ideal to be tempering while also dealing with roasting and hot things around, but kind of made it work. And that was really my R&D lab to just start up. And I started only doing wholesale at that point, just selling chocolate to different restaurants and chefs, and primarily couverture to different places to kind of help scale up.
You by yourself, or do you have anybody working with you at that point?
I had somebody part-time helping me out, but it was primarily me kind of grinding it out and just working nonstop to produce as much as I could, but also to kind of get the name out there.
How long were you in that space?
I was in there about a year and a half, almost.
Got it. So at some point you moved into this new palatial home. How big are you now? How big is the space now?
It's about 1,300.
Okay, so not huge.
No, not huge. We do a lot in this small space. We're a little crammed right now, but kind of looking to what the future brings, and possibly expanding in the near future. So kind of looking ahead at the what comes next with production and scaling. So kind of going from there.
Right. I mean, in the middle of a global pandemic.
Well, things take time, especially if in Miami. So you have to start planning ahead from a good amount of time.
Right. But Speaking of pandemic, I mean, have you seen, what has that done to the business over the last 6 months? Has it been particularly problematic, or, I mean, you improvise and overcome, I guess?
We've had to tremendously pivot since March. That's been like the big keyword for us. We were still a very big wholesale play, so we sold a lot to hotels and restaurants, a lot to beer companies, and suddenly since March, everybody shut down, and all those orders for mini bars, for ice cream production. We had a big client that was supposed to open in the summer and suddenly didn't. We had bought a ton of beans to produce for them. So on the wholesale side, it's completely, been on downward because obviously everybody else has been so affected, so it impacts us.
Right.
And of course, one of the big sources for us also was on the tour side. We did a lot of activities here of education and classes on making truffles and stuff like that. So obviously we completely have that to a halt, in our shop. So we've had to pivot to the online. What we've discovered is a lot of people still want chocolate, and folks still want chocolate delivered to them. So we've gone completely online, and we've found a lot of success with that, and that has been, a great point of hope for the business and for the team and for our ability to continue functioning and growing. So that's been a positive thing.
Yeah, was your online platform already set up, or did you have to create an online platform in the middle of that?
It was already set up, but it wasn't something, because we were so focused on the wholesale side, it wasn't like a huge point of a work in progress type of thing. It was there, and we've continued to build on it. So
Yeah, that's Tom Rick, we have a really good friend a customer that they basically rebuilt their entire online platform in like 72 hours, right?
Yeah.
That they went from being this brick and mortar focused business to being an internet business, and the only way that they could do that in time for, at this point, was Easter, was to redo their entire online platform in 72 hours so that they were prepared for Easter. And I think, in the defense of chocolate makers, I think that chocolatiers, chocolate makers, everybody, I mean, you guys are all in kind of people, right? And if you don't want to go anywhere, and so the only way you've got to stay relevant is to do something new.
Of course. Right? Yeah. I mean, I think what's been really great and positive has been, I keep hearing that the number one pandemic food is actually chocolate. So, it's great for us who are in the chocolate business to, try to give small luxuries to people in this time where it's like a small moment. What I keep hearing in emails from people is like, thank you so much for like a moment of bliss. And that's what I kept hearing from clients, where it's like, they've had a rough week, a rough month, it's been a rough year, and you have that chocolate delivery that comes, or a friend sends you something, and you just have that moment of escape, which is like really needed in this time. So that's the key word that I keep hearing from a lot of folks. Is just, it's been nice to get things safely delivered to home and just have that moment where it's for you and where you can just be satisfied for the simple pleasure.
Yeah, one of your reviews on your website talks about indulgent bites of happiness, and I think that to me is sort of kind of like what we want to be, right? We no matter the scale, no matter the quality or the quantity or whatever, we want to create these little segments of happiness in non-extraordinary days.
Correct.
Right? I mean, that might be a little much, but I mean, I think if I think about my own experience, I want to make people happy. Like,
right. No, I think that's totally, hits the point. I think now more than ever, where we can't do kind of the things that we used to do, we kind of, small pleasures kind of go a really long way, or just simple, indulgences for folks really become more meaningful. So I think that's what people are really trying to find, and it's some form of escape and comfort. And chocolate tends to offer that. So, it's nice to hear those positive things that you can bring to people that maybe in prior years wasn't as meaningful as it is now. Right.
I mean, I think we all have that early memory, right, of whatever that dessert or that chocolate, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, do you have one of those? One of those
I
like that first.
getting, you know, the treat as a kid was always getting, like when somebody would travel, getting chocolate from that particular place. And I just remember always like hiding it like near my bed and just like that, kind of sneaking it here and there, and just being this great, you know, experience for me, and just something, this great indulgence. And it was just such a like a little happy treat. So that's one of my earliest memories of chocolate.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like we've talked to a lot of people in the last 6 months. I mean, we've done this now 25 times or something, and that kind of theme, right? About that kind of hiding something away, or like
Yeah.
treating it like this little precious thing, right? This diamond that I mean, I guess we'll share if we have to. You know, if mom tells me I have to share it, I will. But I'm not going to share it because it's mine.
Right.
And you know, that I think those are the special things about being a chocolatier that are kind of really awesome. Like being able to participate in other people's lives that way, whether that's, you know, whether that's a piece of the ice cream cone that's a remembrance of a trip somewhere, or the chocolate that, you know, gets taken home from the hotel as the amenity because they were so good the first day. I'm going to save this to remember my trip to Miami, right? I mean, that's got to be something special for you to be a piece of that for other people
absolutely.
when
And
you hear
I
about
think
those
with
things.
chocolate, we're always present around the holidays, right? Like we're always like play a central role, be it Easter, be it Christmas, be it a birthday present. So I think we always have chocolate as a focal point, and as a happy focal point for a lot of folks. So it's you know, that's our role in the world.
Yeah, I worked in a big I worked for the Ritz-Carlton company for a while, right? And I remember I'm in the kitchen one time and we're doing this wedding cake, and I'm phoning it in a little bit, to be completely honest with you. Like it's the third wedding cake of the day, and like I want to go home and I'm tired, and I'm kind of like I'm probably complaining about something, knowing me, about it. And my executive chef walks in, he goes, "Brian, come here a minute." And he pulls me aside, he goes, "Look, this cake is the centerpiece of the most important day in this woman's life. I'd like you to treat it like that." You know? And I think that's kind of like when we think about confection or indulgence or pastry or whatever it is, we are at those moments. Like you just said, we're at holidays, and we're at family events, and we're at weddings, and we're at all this great stuff, and people remember what we did. And I think it reminded me that I had an obligation to treat it like that. You know, that it's not
so
just
much more than just chocolate or cake, right?
Right. I mean, and I think, you know, I'm assuming, I just opened the one over here. They're hand wrapped.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Which is a time-consuming pain in the, you know what.
Yeah.
But
actually, I can
two
show
bars
you wrapping right now, and they're on break as we do this. But yeah, we still hand wrap everything, and you know, it's a nice little present to yourself. So it's a lot of work behind it, but we know also the end reward for a lot of folks. So we try to offer that as much as best as we can.
Right. I mean, I think that there's something about the gold foil inside, right? I mean, it reminds me about how precious this is as I'm opening it.
Yeah.
Or have I gone too far in that conversation? I don't know. I don't think I have.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that about these indulgences.
I think it's very nostalgic of like when chocolate used to get wrapped in foil. So it's like reminiscent of kind of the olden chocolate bar that was just a little bit different than, you know, how it is now in you know, the move from foil over to plastic and everything. But you know, it's a nice, simple treat, and so we like to present it that way.
Yeah, that's something that we've added a line of equipment here at Comric about, that we have flow wrappers, and we've had flow wrappers for a little while, but we've now added a new wrapper that wraps back in foil and paper, because there's something
It looks really
about
cool.
that. It is pretty nice. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if it'll fit in your facility. You're going to need a bigger place to fit it.
It's quite big, yes.
But and then you wouldn't have to have people hand wrapping for 4 hours a day or whatever it is.
Right.
As you grow, you can come and visit. When you're allowed to
Yes.
visit again, you should come up and we can go all that. So
Absolutely.
I said something about it earlier, but behind you is a melange. Are you still everything stone milled still, or
Still stone mills, yeah. We still stone grind everything, so that works for us.
normal 48 to 72 hour kind of world for everything?
Yeah, it depends on what type of chocolate we're making, but yeah, somewhere in the 72, sometimes 96, depending on how things are functioning and if the chocolate wants to be difficult. But yeah, still on that process.
And roasting all your own beans too?
Roasting, yeah. So we roast everything here in house and winnow and grind it out. So everything from the whole bean all the way to the final chocolate.
Cool. And then, I mean, your website, and you mentioned it the other day, but you talk a lot about, quality ingredients. So quality cacao, but you're
Absolutely.
using some interesting milk powders for some of the other things and inclusions for as you move
Yeah.
downstream, you're, bean to bond. I mean, there's
Right.
other cool stuff going on there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we try to, it's real ingredients, and the idea is trying to, as far as our bonbons go, we try to source as locally as we can. We're in this great tropical, place where, for example, this week we just made passion fruit caramels using a local passion fruit vendor. One of our most popular bonbons is, it's called the Little Guavana. It's made out of guava from a farm down south from us. So, we really try to combine the idea not just of great cacao, great chocolate, but also great quality ingredients to, complement the final product of whatever we're making and give folks a slice of something a little bit different than your store-bought bonbons or something that you can kind of pick up on a shelf and stays in your pantry for a while. So it's like a little fresh, indulgence.
And I'm sure caramel is a lot of fun in Miami. Back to, temperature and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. The climate here is, especially now, quite interesting. So yeah, we make it work, but we definitely have to adapt to it, and you have to, not let the chocolate boss you around. So
Yeah, I tell a story that like every once in a while, I get we do a lot of technical services here, and like I experience my own challenges every once in a while. And every once in a while, you got to put everything down on the table and like leave the kitchen and just like light a candle to Theobroma Coca or something, because like chocolate wants to follow the rules it wants to follow. So it's got to be me that's got a problem. I just have to figure out what the problem is.
yeah.
Right.
One of our happiest moments is, bonbons. We start with making the chocolate and we make the bonbons. And then we crack them. And then they all come out at once. It's like angels sing. Because you're just like, there's so many things that could go wrong during that entire process. And, when it all does come together and works out, it's just so nice to see it work out. And it's almost miraculous when it's everything works out 100% like it should.
And you don't have anybody to throw under the bus for it. That's like, the chocolate guy, if you were buying commercial chocolate, you can throw the chocolate company under the bus when there's a problem, right? And if you were just making the bean to bar chocolate, then when you sell it to the other person, then it's their fault, right?
You get all the glory, but you get also all the bad part too. So I always tell chocolate is a huge tattletale, because it'll tell you at the end where you messed up and like where exactly things went wrong. If you didn't polish it right, if you didn't temper it right, like it's like a dead giveaway. You can't hide behind the imperfections. It just totally tells on you.
Right. So hey, there's a couple questions and like we talked yesterday, and I said if there's a question you don't want to answer, just kind of give me the evil eye, and we'll move on. But somebody asked me what kind of grinder you use.
What kind of what? I'm sorry.
Grinder.
So we use Premier Diamond melangers right now. We pre-grind. We have a Hobart, like a vertical mixer, where we actually pre-grind everything, turn it into liquor, and then from there it goes into the Premiers, which is what's spinning behind me.
Got it. And is that a 5 kg? I can't see from, how big is that?
It's 100 pounds.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't look it, but it's 100 pounds.
It looks very small on the screen. It looks like, it kind of looks like, it looks,
so close to the camera.
It looks like mine.
Oh, that's so funny. No, I know I look much larger than the machine because I'm so close, but that's actually it's a 100-pound one, and
Okay.
come maybe in the next week and a half we have some old Spectras as well that we've been running, so we can do in a given week when all goes right. I'm sorry, about 500 pounds a week, and then in the next week and a half, hopefully, if all goes well, we'll actually double our capacity. So we're getting a few we're getting some 200-pound premieres.
Cool. And which is hard? So somebody else asked this. Which is harder, chocolate or the bonbons?
Oh my God, the bonbon. Especially using craft chocolate. It just, it's, chocolate at least you don't temper it right. You just temper it again. With bonbon making, it's like if something goes wrong, it's pretty much like start all over. So we love our bonbons. We have but we also have a lot of respect for the process.
What are you tempering in?
We have a gammy.
Got it. How big? Like
Yeah,
just 25 kilo or something?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we use that for enrobing.
Well, not cool. I mean, not cool. We'd rather you have a sell me, but
I know.
at least it's Italian.
Keep it Italian, yes.
What's the favorite item that you make? Your favorite item? Like if you're going to take one item home tonight, what are you going to take home with you?
Oh, right now we started making hazelnut bites, so it's our version of Nutella. So we're making our own gianduja, with roasted hazelnuts we make here, and then our chocolate. So that's been my new. It's like a little salty, it's a little sweet, it's a little nutty. It's great.
That's how my wife describes me.
Well,
by the way, a little salty, a little sweet, a little nutty. That's kind of pretty much.
But yeah, that's my top thing right now. We've actually now started playing a little past bonbons and a little past that. So we've actually started experimenting with making ice cream with our origins and making brownies. So anytime there's something new and we're taste testing, that's like my new favorite thing. And my way to know if we're gonna push the button to launch is if it's snackable, where I find myself sneaking too much into production, then it's a winner.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you're not stopping with just chocolate. I mean, like those are big leaps. Like baking and ice cream is another big. You're definitely going to need more room.
We're getting to that point. We've already been at that point for a while, but you make it work. When I maxed out at that little place I started off with, there came a point where there would just be like sheet pans like hanging over my head because I had nowhere else to put them. So if I could make that work, we'll make this work as much as we can. But we try to do our best to offer like a full experience of chocolate in different forms, and things that are, for me, I'm very much about the nostalgia, like Americana, nostalgic things just made well. So we do like fresh baked Oreos. Like we have a truffle that we make the Oreo in house with our chocolate, and it's like that experience that you had as a kid, but now with real ingredients. Or we make a Twix bar, which is very popular, made with our shortbread and our caramel and all sorts of things that really were very nostalgic treats for us as children, but now made with the real stuff.
That's cool. So how many people on your team now? Because there was one before. Now there's got to be more than one.
There was one, yeah, and now we're at about 7.
People that have been with you for, like the whole time, or people that
it's a mix. Yeah, it's a mix. I think now with the pandemic, it's been a struggle where we try to stagger ourselves as much as we can. But yeah, we've been a few folks. Someone's just turning like 2 years, and we have a few folks that are turning a year now. So
cool. They're like your brothers and sisters on this journey.
Right.
Okay, so I said I was going to ask about the roasted milk because my assistant Beth wanted to understand. By the way, I really love the foxes on this package.
Some people think they're corgis, but yes, they are foxes.
But I'm intrigued. You said that there was something about the plantation that has to go back to the packaging. So I want to know. I want to know the fox story.
There's no, for the inclusion ones that doesn't apply, but for the origin specific to the dark ones, they all have so we can talk about the Arhuacos one if you want.
The red bird.
The red bird, yeah. So that one is from the Arhuacos. We're in the Sierra Nevada in Colombia. And their big message and their big way of operating is they're in tune with nature, and about the big message when I went over there to see how they were farming and everything was that we have to be very kind to nature. We have to conserve Mother Nature because it's obviously not only giving us cacao, but giving us a home. So for them, the conservation of the mountains, the flora, the fauna is extremely important and part of how they grow cacao and harvest it. So that's why the birds, the going back to nature and being able to really sustain that.
Cool. All right. So roasted milk.
Roasted milk, yeah.
What do you do? Can you tell me? Will you tell me? Or do you have to kill?
So,
oh, you'll tell me, but you have to kill me?
No. We're a pretty open book about it. But roasted milk, for me, I've always found milk chocolate to be a little bit too sweet, and the same goes with white. So one of the things that one day I was kind of tinkering around with, and it's not a new concept, but it was to me at the time, was I was trying to heat up milk to make a white, and I left it a little bit too long in the oven, and I realized that you could caramelize it. Again, not a new finding, but it was for me at that time. And I still put it into it was first a white chocolate, and I realized how different the flavor became just in roasting and toasting the milk. So it was something that I kept playing around with and realized that you could slow roast the milk in the oven and use that to make, we were primarily doing it up until recently just for white chocolates, but started playing around with it. With milk, we do a toasted milk with brown butter, which is actually what's running in the Melandra right now. And realized that we really liked it. It has more of a toffiness. It kind of cuts down the sweet a little bit. Can be more on the caramelly side. So it's something that we really kept playing around with.
Yeah, I would tell you that's the first taste I got there was toffee.
Yeah.
Right, that kind of like that Maillard reaction, right, with the not quite caramel.
Correct.
But like it's definitely sort of that cooked milk kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So.
And I put the second piece in my mouth too. So.
Yeah, so that's been especially for a white chocolate, for folks we have a lot of folks, our specialty's dark. A lot of folks are like, oh, I hate white chocolate, and then they try the toasted one. They're like, oh my god, this is like totally different than what I have ever tried with like white chocolate, and it's that roasted milk just gives it a huge difference in flavor and a different profile, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's almost nutty, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, and I think that's kind of the cool stuff I think that's going on in chocolate right now is that we're not constricted by the ingredients that we would think about, right? I mean, if you think about chocolate 20 years ago in this country, there were 5 ingredients total, right? And I think whether some of those innovations are coming from the bean to bar side or they're coming from big chocolate back to, right? The flexibility of ingredients and the flexibility to do things that are different is giving our consumer just a lot of choices.
Right, and I think it
cool.
Actually, I would take it even one step further. I think it also goes back to the consumer a lot of times for not only the innovation of things, but also for holding us accountable for making sure that the ingredients we're putting in there are what they want to consume as well. So I think just in year to year and seeing, at specialty food shows and everything, how even big companies are now trying to mirror what some of the smaller producers are doing by what they choose to use in their ingredients and in their final chocolate products.
Yeah, I had a conversation the other day with basically a food science guy, right? And we were talking a little bit about one of the big chocolate companies, and they were talking about that the innovation, where innovation's coming from has evolved, right? Where food companies used to tell people what they wanted to eat.
Right.
And now the consumer is telling the food company what they want to eat. And, that's contributing in the health movement and new ingredients and all those things. But it's also coming from a willingness of our consumers to try new things. that
Absolutely.
they're asking for things that they don't know they can't ask for. Right,
Totally.
right.
Yeah.
Like before you took what you got, you get what you get, and you don't get upset.
Totally.
As I would tell my 11-year-old. But
Yeah. And I think what's interesting too is for this newer generation, now that you mentioned your 11-year-old, is the kids are becoming much more open to trying new things. So I always call them kind of like sushi kids. It's like the kids who will eat sushi are typically the kids who will love dark chocolate, but you see more of a conscientiousness as we see, like, when kids come here and they're more aware of what they should be eating, but also, oh, this is real chocolate. This isn't, the stuff that I get at, birthday party or something like that. So I think there's a movement towards that, which will be great for, the craft chocolate movement, but in general for chocolate in general, I think.
well, but I also think that the craft chocolate movement, the products are better than they were 10 years ago too, right? I mean,
Totally.
that you and other people in this industry have gotten better at making a better crafted product.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's not to speak ill of other people, but I think we've been able to calibrate our micron size, and we've been able to do things that make this chocolate bar more similar to a commercially available chocolate bar,
Right.
and they're with new flavors, right? Because there is something about mouthfeel. Mouthfeel is important,
Of course.
right? And
totally.
if we don't get that right,
Yeah.
it diminishes the enjoyment of the total piece, no matter where the ingredients come from, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally true.
So what's the one thing that you've created that was a loser? That like you tasted and you're like, oh, what was I thinking? Or your customers were like, what were you thinking? There's got to be one.
Oh my God, there's way more than one. There's been just so many of them. There's a lot of failures with especially like you mentioned, even with the equipment, like trying out like passion fruit chocolate and just throwing straight passion fruit into it, or trying to work with like panela, which is like the evaporated cane sugar, and throwing that into melange. Like, oh my God, the texture is just so weird, and just the flavor is weird, and we almost damaged the machine. So
hey, if it makes you feel better, we almost damaged our premiere the other day because we're trying this honey thing.
Oh, I've tried the honey thing. That is a horrible experiment.
Well, so we're doing, okay, so my assistant Beth has this really great idea, like wants to do something. And I'm like, great,
Yeah.
why don't we want to do a peanut filling, basically. Like we want to make peanut gianduja. And so Beth's like, cool. So she honey roasts these peanuts and makes this really great product. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
We want to make this in the melange. So why don't you try to make this honey thing and the peanuts, and we'll put it all in the melange. Now, I'm not the one that has to do it in this case, and I'm not the one that had to clean up the melange when we were done. But, disaster strikes. So
Right.
so here's my plug to Premiere for the day. The thing still works, and we should have broken it. Right? So, and by the way, someone's now
right?
Right. So someone's now telling me need the dried honey, and I'm going to and I know who that is. It's Carrie, and like we figured out a way to make our own dried honey around here. So, but anyway, but yeah, the honey thing and the melange, they're not buds.
Yeah.
They're not buds.
Yeah. It's a challenge. So yeah, there's been a lot of those failures, and just like I said, the journey to great chocolate, it's a lot of cleaning and it's a lot of failure until you finally get it right, and then you're confident that it's something that that you enjoy, but that people will enjoy as well.
Got it. Yeah, we had a failure yesterday that I cooked a gummy product like way too long, and just bad.
Didn't work
bad
out.
Bad news bears. Total bad news bears. And
Well,
I think I think what's interesting too is that you're talking about your story is one about learning stuff on your own and doing things on your own, and we are inclined to make more mistakes when we do it that way, right?
Absolutely.
If we're kind of like fumbling through stuff, and I don't like making. Personally, I have problems when I make mistakes. I tell people, oh yeah, mistakes are part of the game, but I don't like making mistakes, right?
Right.
And they cost money.
They do. I mean, I think the important thing for me is always, as long as you can learn from it, you can take it and then, evolve from it. I think that's the big key takeaway. But there's been times when I've been doing something a certain way, and then somebody who has the formal knowledge will be like, you could just do it this way. And it's like, oh, where was this knowledge, 6 months ago, where it would have just been so much easier. So I think it makes you more curious and more creative sometimes, but it also becomes a pain point because you make mistakes, and mistakes, as you said, they cause delays, but they're also expensive. So,
Right. Well, I mean, you started as a consultant, right? I mean, there's a reason that consultants make what they make per hour, right? Because they're designed to cut down that pain time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, no matter what the industry is, the goal is that I've seen this 50 times.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an answer, and you're going to have an answer in 2 hours or 8 days or whatever, not in 100 hours or 100 weeks.
Right. I think that's been very useful. That background, despite it seems like such far away from chocolate, but for me it's been very useful in the sense that I'm very analytical by nature, and I was trained to be very analytical and to deep dive, data mine what's going on, how do we fix this, and let's fix it. And that's the way that I approach production and the kitchen and chocolate. I view it almost as, where's the problem, where is it not going right, whether it's a recipe, whether it's a chocolate, whether it's production, bottlenecks, or whatever.
Right.
And so that's at least been something that I can take from my former life and really evolve from that and kind of fix it without being frustrated by it.
Cool. Hey, so we're getting close to the hour, and I promised I was only going to take an hour of your day, and Instagram's going to kick us off in an hour anyway. So
Okay.
I wasn't going to take more than that. So there's a question on the screen that I want to ask, and then I have one question, and then you get your opportunity to plug whatever you want to plug.
Sure.
And so the question on the screen is, what's your most demanded product?
Our most demanded product is our Café con Leche bar. That is our coffee. It's like a cafe au lait. Like it's our homage to Miami's Cuban coffee scene. And we use a local roaster here that makes the coffee for us, and we do an infusion into a dark milk. And it's like drinking a cafecito. So that's our number one. It's your most Miami thing ever, but it's just like a little bit of dark, sweet, and caffeine mixed together. So it's a really, nice kick, but also a nice sweet indulgence.
Cool. My last question, and we'll go back a little bit. Not
Sure.
today. When you were still in New York,
Yeah.
you'd worked one of those 14-hour days. You're on your way home. You stop into the bodega to grab a bottle of water because you're out of water in the fridge, and you're headed back to the register, and you're in the mass market confection aisle.
Yeah.
And you decide you have to have one of those tonight.
Oh boy.
What did you grab?
It's a Crunch bar.
It was that easy. Just Nestle Crunch Bar. That was it.
It's just crunchy, and like it's just, I don't know. I think it goes back to the childhood thing. That was just like something that was like a treat. So I think it's the comfort food. We started trying to do Crunch bars but with puffed quinoa and rice cereal. But that's for me is like the must grab from guilty pleasure.
Cool. Do you still grab them every once in a while?
Sometimes.
I won't tell. We won't tell anybody. It's between me and you. We won't tell anybody else.
Yeah.
All right. So here's your chance. Plug what you want. You get like as much plug time as you need.
Yeah. So make sure you follow us, Esquisito. I'm sure it's somewhere up here. But stay tuned. We do a lot of virtual tours. If you want to kind of see a little bit behind the scenes as to how we make everything, make sure you sign up for our newsletter, which is on our website. And we love to do virtual education. And so if you want to be at home and check us out, do a tasting with us, then make sure you are plugged in.
And everything's available to order online.
Absolutely, everything is
that's
online.
That's how we got these bars.
Yeah. So the link is in our bio on our Instagram. So come check us out. We had a lot of cool stuff.
Carolina, thank you very much for spending almost an hour with us.
Thank you so much. It was
and it was really cool to learn about your thing down there. And next trip to Miami, we're coming in.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
All right. You have a great afternoon, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.